In a world where women hold dominion and men exist solely to obey, he was born as a fragile, invisible being. From his first breath, he was discarded like trash, overlooked and disregarded. But everything changed the moment he discovered that his body held an extraordinary power no law could suppress. A single touch capable of rendering women breathless and deprived of their reason and authority. The more they tried to conceal this gift, the closer they came. The more they dismissed him, the deeper their dependence grew. He never sought to dominate anyone, yet he became the object of desire for an entire society. His journey truly began only when he embraced his role as a healer. On the quiet outskirts of Grill County, a battered clinic harbors more struggles than its peaceful appearance suggests. A glowing, magical circle flickers around an irregular wound, fingers trembling as they bet everything on healing rather than failure. The gruesome cut seals shut at an unsettling speed, leaving behind raw, disturbing scars. As the light dims and sweat is wiped from his brow with a strained smile, the young healer insists that everything is fine, though nerves still ripple under his skin. The sturdy patient offers a rough but grateful smile as the healer calmly warns him of lingering pain and prescribes strict rest along with medication. With skeptical squints, the man praises the healer's skill but questions why such a talent is buried here and nowhere else. The healer chuckles awkwardly, his stiff smile betraying the complexity and untouchability of his hidden past. Pointing to his own body, he jokes about his unusual appearance, prompting the large man to nod overly enthusiastically, the tension palpable. The patient marvels at his savior, a rare-haired healer, insisting that fate has blessed him with such an extraordinary figure in this world. Soft words of farewell drift under an open sky as promises to return clash with pleas to visit, even if no more patients arrive. Casually, the big man admits that he still prefers the local nurse over this dark-haired doctor from the outskirts. The healer raises his hand in farewell, whispering for him to take care, as the door closes with a muffled thud. From the side, he gauges the half-year that has passed since he was cast into this strange world, remnants of his past in mind. He recalls the blinding headlights and the panicked driver the moment they ripped him from his former life, then mouths a silent prayer to a voluptuous goddess whose overwhelming presence had granted him healing magic, a retribution from a reincarnation he never sought. Standing before a distant city, he reflects that in this realm, only one thing truly defies the usual rules. Grotesque, radiant faces that grin with pride, revealing a world where beauty and coldness have completely swapped places. A simple diagram illustrates how the beautiful and the hideous are inverted, illustrating the stark contrast of this strange reality. He demonstrated that her attraction values were not merely warped but entirely inverted. Comparing her ordinary face in the real world, she realized that her once mediocre appearance was now completely on the wrong side of desire. An untidy alchemy bench stood as proof that, over 6 pressure-filled months, she had built a life here with the help of others. Turning her back to the shelves, she silently admitted that her goddess's extra skills enabled her to establish a bargain clinic on the village outskirts. Hands on her hips at the top of a rickety ladder, she acknowledged she couldn't be too demanding, even though her talents went to waste in such an outdated place. As the air grew heavier, stretching with a lazy yawn, she sighed, still longing for higher, more reliable income. Her smile faded into a wary sideways glance as she murmured that perhaps she should try new tactics before complaining. Unsteady steps and the dragging of a cane approached the clinic, each wobble hinting at an imminent collapse. A hooded girl panted for breath, sweat streaming down as trembling hands clutched her chest and the cane. Glancing at the modest building, she softly begged that this place might finally save her life. Oblivious to everything, he sat outside reading, killing time in the empty clinic as if clients would never come. Suddenly, Knuckles hammered the door in a frantic, hurried rhythm piercing the corridor's silence. Peering through a crack, the nervous elf stammered, asking if anyone was inside. Her eyes lit up as she jumped to her feet, excitement blooming because a second visitor made this strange day feel almost lucky. Running down the hall, she shouted that he was coming, clutching that fragile wave of hope eagerly awaited. He flung the door open with a casual greeting, only to be stunned by the remarkable sight before him. Standing at the entrance, the flushed elf swayed, pleading her exotic ears and presence, painfully aware of her allure even as she begged for help. Tears streaming, she leaned forward, crying out for aid, insisting she be healed before it was too late. Clumsily from the porch, he asked if she was all right and urged her inside, trying to sound genuinely professional. Her body jerked with a sharp spasm and a stifled cry, a strange sensation coursing through her from her determined words. The scraping of a chair's leg against the floor intensified as something lunged forward. The sudden movement shattered her fragile composure, her breathing ragged like an animal poised over her fallen form, her wild eyes ablaze with hunger and desperation. Their faces collided in a wet, stunned kiss, her shock clashing with feverish, tear-streaked need. Hands pulled at her clothing in frantic, sweaty tearing that reeked of uncontrollable desire. He looked down at her immobilized and dazzled, a crooked smile twisting his lips as he observed her. He insisted that everything happening was happening too fast and was fundamentally wrong. His mind drifted back to her previous plea for salvation, for healing, but now his thoughts twisted into something far more dangerous. A jolt of realization flashed across his sweat-dampened face as he recognized the obscene mark, fighting the seductive pull of her hips. A memory of an old textbook surfaced, its pages describing this terrifying condition as a lust-induced trance, a concept he had once studied intently. With clenched jaw and teeth bared, he extended his hand, vowing to banish it through magic before they both lost control. The dusty shelves of a forgotten library blurred in his thoughts as clinical notes defined the illness with chilling descriptions of frenzied arousal and denied release. He recalled trembling over an open book, murmuring that such a labyrinth of traps would be truly terrifying if any path might lead into it. The image of a frantic stick figure in a compromising position exploded in his mind, darkening his thoughts with the shame of imagining the humiliation as if it were real. Silhouetted against the shadows, he sank back and whispered to himself that it was probably best to abandon entirely the idea of entering those deadly mazes. His gaze lifted to the clock, and anxiety flickered as he wondered whether the elf had already awakened. Nervously, he stopped before her door, concerned aloud over having had to change her blood-stained clothes, praying she wouldn't be furious. A single drop of sweat traced down his cheek as he admitted to himself, disregarding the scandal, that what had occurred felt disturbingly incredible, and the tension wouldn't ease. Blushing as he moved, he silently confesses that it was the first time he had seen a real woman's intimate side, a memory etched deeply in his mind. Steadying his shoulders at the threshold, he whispered a reassurance. "It's all right," gathering courage to face whatever mood awaited him inside. He barged in hurriedly, cheeks flushed, shouting to calm down and begging her to relax so he could perform a proper examination. On the other side of the silent room, she curled up on the bed, moaning softly, wordless, clutching herself as the weight of what had happened pressed down. Her reddened hands trembled as she wondered what to do, blaming the cursed mark even as shame burned inside her for what she had been forced to do. Tears welled up, threatening to spill. She told herself that a woman like her, who had harmed someone, deserved whatever punishment came, even death. Fear and guilt tightened painfully in her chest. Suddenly, a sharp bang shattered the silence, rattling the door and breaking the stale air, signaling that the confrontation they both feared was finally about to begin. The elf sat up instinctively, tension coursing through her as the door creaked open like a verdict against her. He cautiously pushed the door open with a nervous smile, stumbling over a courteous greeting that fled halfway from his tongue. Seeing his tense posture, she froze, instinctively bending forward in frantic apology, panic evident in her eyes. Dropping to her knees, she stammered, insisting her oversight was to blame, that the hidden curse was not her fault, as both of them shared in the weight of remorse. Tears drifted down her cheeks as she begged for any punishment to fall solely on her, desperately trying to shield someone unseen. Her voice quivered as she suddenly uttered his name and her role in the Silver Wings group, as if those titles could somehow soften the judgment. From across the room, he offered money and whatever else she desired, pleading for her to forgive his companions just as he struggled to regain composure. Sweating and fidgeting, he insisted he carried no anger and begged her to stop offering apologies as if he were some cruel oppressor. His eyes widened with fragile hope when he asked her to lift her face, promising leniency for the moment and a brief respite. Kneeling closer, she admitted she had heard of the Silver Wings, a group whispered about for their monstrous strength and unsettling gazes. Looking down, she murmured that only her appearance was truly monstrous. Shame weighed more heavily than any battle scar. Imagining an imposing ogre standing beside her, he swallowed hard. Noticing that the elves here bore faces that could easily be mistaken for monsters, she tried once again to bear full responsibility, insisting her companions were innocent, while he stiffened at the word punishment floating between them. Off camera, he assured her that her apology was enough and shifted blame to the crest, trying to erase the offense they both remembered. Blushing brightly, she mumbled that she wouldn't mind if such thing happened to someone as beautiful as Sylvie, causing his face to flush and shock to ripple through him. The word beautiful sparked years of insecurity in an instant. Nervous but smiling faintly, she agreed to follow the instructions for the medicine, while he casually mentioned a high fee for the first visit, as if that was entirely normal. Still crimson from embarrassment, she hesitated, trying to ask what he had just said. The unspoken compliment caught in her throat. Outside the modest clinic, her protest that she wasn't referring to the fee hung unanswered as he repeated treatment fee innocently. Clutching her chest, she wondered if he truly hated what she had done, torn between relief and self-hate that refused to fade. Ruffling his hair with a forced laugh, he admitted it had been embarrassing but insisted he should be the one paying. Her lips trembled, sweat beaded on her forehead, as she struggled to suppress disbelief, while his kindness clashed with years of self-loathing. The rapid departure from the modest room was sudden and unceremonious, accompanied by a formal expression of gratitude that left the man shouting in stunned confusion behind her. She fled the clinic like a trapped animal, the door standing wide open as if inviting her to return. He dashed after her, waving the clothes she had forgotten, calling her name as the fabric fluttered like a banner of shared shame. He watched her with silent astonishment as she sped away, panic nearly bursting from her back. His hands clenched around the heavy pouch of coins she had thrown him, the clang of payment echoing more heavily than its weight suggested. Holding the pouch, he shouted in disbelief, while she hurriedly apologized and disappeared down the street. When he finally opened the bag, he froze, the coins spilling into his palms. The amount made his previous fee seem paltry, a clear sign of an unanticipated windfall, yet one imbued with guilt. Collapsing onto the counter, he murmured in confusion, unsure what to do with this unexpected gain that tasted of remorse. Elsewhere on the city's road, she walked alone beneath towering walls, her small figure hunched in an invisible shame. The image of his embarrassed face haunted her mind, especially his confession that he wouldn't mind being with someone as beautiful as her. Her trembling lips whispered that those words had to be lies, although hope seeped through every denial. Clasping her hands and burning from within, she forced herself into a shaky smile. The thought that anyone might find her attractive turned her entire world upside down. A rough man appeared at the doorway, apologizing because they were short-staffed. His brusque tone offered no room for excuses. Another innkeeper grimaced and claimed they were fully booked, closing the door with weary resignation, something she had heard too often before. Remaining under her hood, she lingered on the street, eyes moist and desperate, while the whispers of nearby passers-by pierced her, their words carrying weight. Huddled in her cloak, she limped through the murmuring crowd, which called her ugly and questioned why anyone would bother to heal her. Their voices hinted that touching her might spread some disease, turning her discomfort into a curse she could not lift. Behind high iron gates, an imposing mansion with silver wings loomed, its proud base suddenly appearing too vast for her most troubled thoughts. Inside that opulent hall, she spun in circles with another woman, both repeating, "What should I do?" Anxiety gnawed at her sense of safety, her wide eyes and clenched fingers pressed against her lips. Horrified, She finally confessed that she had actually assaulted someone. A close-up of her clenched fist conveyed the silent realization that, upon calmer reflection, her actions had been truly scandalous. The sky darkened above her as her thoughts spiraled into chaos. Without her crest or any protection, it was unforgivable for someone as unattractive as her to cross that line. Her solitary figure moved along the path, while suppressed memories condemned her appearance and warned that any accusation would condemn her instantly. Her steps faltered as she recalled her vow to grow stronger, only to see that resolve collide with a pain she had yet to overcome. A faint smile flickered in her mind, recalling how he had once said he didn't really mind and even called her pretty. She gazed at the ground during a hollow pause, quietly questioning whether those words could have reflected his true feelings. Clenching her fists, her anger flared as she argued that she only should have pitied his ugliness. Yet she clung to the hope that someone who cared might genuinely believe she was good, though that tension lingered unresolved. Her troubled thoughts shattered when a colleague suddenly burst through the mansion door behind her, the shock freezing her in place. The fierce woman barged in, teeth bared, shouting about Sylvie's safety, while another voice from deep within the hall called her name in alarm. The girl, standing on high heels in the foyer, hurriedly reported that she had somehow found a healer willing to assist, stopping abruptly upon seeing Sylvie, who greeted her shyly. In a panic, the girl grabbed Sylvie's shoulders and shouted, demanding if she was truly healed. Sylvie lowered her head, apologizing for causing so much trouble. Suddenly, Sylvie's voice rose in a scream as she was overwhelmed in a desperate embrace. Her wide eyes filled with surprise and disbelief. Her trembling lips uttered a tearful thanks to God, as relief finally cracked the hardened line of the warrior's mouth. Tears streaming, her friend squeezed Sylvia's head tightly, her worried expression revealing she had been consumed by concern. The battered shield was completely shattered. Pressed against the trembling shoulder, Sylvie sobbed gratefully, clutching onto the only comfort she felt she didn't deserve. Later, the two sat apart on facing sofas. One insisted she was merely relieved that Sylvie was safe, while the other, wrapped nervously in a towel, struggled to find her bearings. When asked if she managed alone or found medicine, Sylvie blushed and admitted she hadn't. Fear tightened her voice as her trembling revealed her anxiety. The mansion itself seemed to cry out as shouts of astonishment thundered through its walls, demanding to know if she truly had attacked a marine healer. With shame creasing her face, she nodded, confessing she simply couldn't endure it any longer. Meanwhile, a stern, full-minded woman snapped her jaw shut and with misty eyes scolded her for daring to face everything alone instead of waiting for help. Arms crossed, she regarded Sylvie with suspicion, as the younger woman stammered that the healer had cured her without any treatment, as if that justified her actions. With a pointed finger like a lance, he growled that the healer would surely turn the assault into a means of extortion, aiming to squeeze every coin Sylv possessed. The focus of Sylvie's eye filled the scene, a trembling tear shimmering as she whispered she had even praised someone like her by calling her pretty. Sylvie waved her arms and muttered incoherently, her words drowned out by her friend's firm grip on her shoulders, barking that she needed to wake from her daydreams. Crossing her arms with a fiery glare, the warrior demanded she regain control, while Sylvie hesitantly wondered what she might be doing wrong. Her sharp profile darkened as she questioned how many times Sylvie had already been tricked with sweet words like those. Blushing but stubborn, Sylvie pressed her hand to her chest, insisting she knew everything, though Jura still felt she wasn't a bad person, and the tension was palpable. The warrior forced a crooked smile as she admitted she too had grown, trying to mask her concern with fragile pride. She lowered her head and mumbled that she understood, her reluctant concession dripping from her lips. From across the room, she acknowledged that they couldn't judge him without seeing him face to face. Enthusiastically, Sylvie felt hope overcoming her caution, her eye hardening at the thought that anyone kind to her kind always harbored some hidden motive. Suddenly, Sylvie declared she would apologize again the next day. Even outside the scene, someone commented on how completely enamored she seemed. Rubbing her head with a sigh, the warrior agreed to investigate on her own and accompany her to make the apology, delighting Sylvie with surprise. A calm sky loomed over the story as the next day arrived, bringing quiet to their unresolved tension. The worn little clinic stood alone behind its fence, its dilapidated walls hiding the storm of emotions about to return. The hanging sign swung open as the door was thrown wide, inviting the problem back inside. Stretching at the threshold, the healer promised to do his best once more, blissfully unaware of the emotional avalanche heading toward him. Sylve beamed with radiant gratitude for the previous day, blushing as her exhausted companion watched her silently, resembling an inquisitor. In front of them, he asked who the other woman was. As Sylvie began to explain, a tense suspicion filled the air. Harry pronounced her name with a defiant pride, while Sylvie flinched beside him. Surprised by her intensity, the healer smiled and extended his hand cheerfully, introducing himself as a member of the Silver Halls, trying to keep things light. He shivered when Harry suddenly bowed deeply before him, saying that their leader crossed the line the day before, his eyes tightly closed beneath his hair, insisting he wanted to apologize in person. With hands raised in mild panic, he stammers that no one could control what had happened and pleads for them not to stress over it. Sweating, Harry leans in once more, offering a stubborn, formal apology, his pride battling with remorse. Watching her closely, he forces a nervous smile and murmurs that the situation is truly painful to accept. He steps back, asking for patience, claiming he has something for Sylvie, which instantly sparks Harry's suspicion. Sylvie tilts her head with a puzzled blush, wondering if anything could genuinely be meant for her. A bulging bag overflowing with coins spills into her hands, as she announces she has found what she intended to return. She startles when he explains with an awkward laugh that he was stunned when she shoved all that money into the bag. She protests that just yesterday, everything was out of anyone's control, while he repeats from a distance that everything is genuinely fine. His fingers dive again into the shiny pile as he decides to adjust the payment accordingly. Biting his lip with genuine embarrassment, he lifts a single coin and says he will only take the fair fee for the treatment. From behind, I notice his easy smile and tightly pressed lips, the unease curling where trust should reside. His mouth twists as he demands to know what he is truly after. Beads of sweat trail down his cheek as he freezes with a tense smile, stammering that he has no idea how to answer such a loaded question. Firming his stance, Harry commands him to speak plainly, admitting fault but challenging him to reveal any plans. Sylvie extends her armored hand toward him. Harry continues to press, warning they won't fall for any clever tricks, and accusingly states that any man approaching cursed women like them while smiling must be scheming something. Stammering in confusion and wounded pride, he looks up, puzzled about what caused his mood to shift so abruptly. Images of the elf girl and the burly figure swirl around him, and he finally grasps her suspicion with a startled realization. So that's what this is about. Resting his hand on his jaw in the darkness, he admits that even in his previous world, he would doubt any woman suddenly offering friendship, and wonders how to clear up this mess. Harry suddenly swings open his cloak with fierce determination, vowing to Sylvie to uncover the true nature of this healer. His eyes widen as his jaw drops when something in his hand strikes him deep inside. The crystal gleams between his fingers as a shout off-screen names it a truth stone. Wielding the crystal like a weapon, Harry declares that it will expose any lie the bearer dares to utter. Beneath the surface, the healer's clenched fist and the buried eye serve as stark reminders of the enchanted stones born in the labyrinth, imbued with terrifying powers. Seizing the moment, he approaches, claiming that with such an object present, testing himself becomes effortlessly simple. His fingers tighten around the crystal as a tense silence flickers through the air. Harry flushes with panic and stumbles backward while the healer pushes the crystal forward, locking eyes with Harry in a desperate gaze. Drenched in sweat, Harry protests loudly that he never intended to deceive either of them. His face blazing, he grips the shimmering crystal and stammers that he genuinely finds both Sylvie and himself beautiful. His mouth stretches into a manic smile as he admits that the chaos of the previous day so excited him that he lost control 3 times. The crystal flashes brightly, and he reels back in horror as he realizes too late that his confession has triggered something unseen. Shaking, drooling, and blushing fiercely. He rushes to clarify that in truth, it was 5 embarrassing incidents. Sylvie and Harry halt abruptly, frozen side by side with blank, reddening faces, a wave of surprise passing between them. Moments later, they burst into synchronized exclaims of disbelief, cheeks burning with shared embarrassment, and the air grows warmer. Outside the clinic, uneasy calm persists, while a distant voice apologizes profusely for everything just revealed. Inside, Sylvie bows deeply and urges Harry to apologize as well, while the healer, flustered, pleads for them to lift their heads. Harry, sweating and looking down, forces out a tense apology for doubting him so harshly. His eyes glint as he admits he assumed he was just another man trying to deceive them like all the others. He chuckles awkwardly, suggesting they forget about it, before cautiously asking if his previous confession was genuine, leaving Sylvie puzzled. A hesitant question from outside the panel follows, asking whether he truly finds their faces beautiful, to which he sheepishly confesses more or less. Sylvie's fists clench her chest as she exclaims, shocked, questioning whether he was genuinely turned on after she attacked him. Both women straighten suddenly, with exclamation marks almost floating above their heads, while he nonchalantly affirms that all those indecent details were indeed true. Blushing profusely, they recoil and label him the last pervert, torn between outrage and a mortified fascination. Burning with embarrassment, Harry stammers that he needs to speak privately with Sylvie and pulls her to ask for a room, leaving the healer nervously giving permission. Under the clear sunlit sky, he recalls a classmate obsessed with animals and wonders if that's how life felt for someone branded as super volatile. Harry clenched his fist with sudden resolve and shouted that they should confront Toa once again, while Sylvie could only stammer a vague eh. Leaning forward with a mischievous smile, Harry joked that since Sylvie had already attacked him once, perhaps she should sit this one out, causing her to gasp narrowly. In the cramped room, she argued that if they pushed things further and he continued accepting it, it would prove he truly liked the unattractive ones like her. Panicking, Sylvie begged him not to twist things, just as a stream of juice splashed at Ari's feet, accompanied by an accusatory glare, while Sylvie mocked that his ulterior motives were obvious. Harry yelled at the humiliating amount of juice spilled, and Sylvie dismissed the accusation with a curt denial, though Harry complained that it was oozing worse than when he wore his crest. Blushing and shouting, Sylvie insisted it was merely an involuntary reflex like sweat from intense exercise, even admitting that being with a LWD man made that area react too. With arms crossed, Harry roared that flowery excuses wouldn't fool him and declared that Sylvie's true feelings were literally leaking out. Her teeth clenched as her blush deepened. Sylvie retorted that if Ari was determined to go so far, she wanted another chance to confront him. Harry responded that Sylvie had already attacked him once, while Sylvie wilted and mumbled about that moment, feeling like a guilty child. Sylvie's voice rose in protest, claiming the crest had clouded her memory of the embarrassing incident. Pointing accusingly at the night before, Sylvie yelled that Ari had no right to spy and demanded to know if he had secretly watched her in bed, reliving everything that had happened. He cracked open the door with a tired face, murmuring that his ridiculous shouting was echoing throughout the house. Suddenly horrified, he froze, shouting that the ground around the girls was soaked. From awkwardly balancing over the puddle, he looked down and demanded to know what on earth had happened. Sylvie covered her face and frantically insisted the flood was just tears of a maiden. Ari, unchanging in expression, said it was merely juice of shame. Nervously sweating, he tried to change the subject, admitting with unease that being attacked again would be too much. He forced a crooked smile, insisting he truly found her attractive even without all that. She yelled that his daring words were just a figure of speech. Scratching the back of his neck uneasily, he suggested they at least start as friends. Furious, Ari blushed intensely and shouted that they should start as friends, then asked if that meant they could develop something more, telling Sylvie to shut up. By the bed, Sylvie reached out to him with trembling hope, asking if he truly didn't mind. He clenched his fist and responded confidently, a broad smile spreading across his face as he expressed his genuine desire to be friends with both of them. Sylve intruded upon his personal space, affirming vehemently that friendship meant daily visits, while he stammered that he might even prepare snacks for the girls. Over the clinic's roof, their overlapping voices promised that they would come every day, Sylve shouting for them to calm down, and an enthusiastic yes, sealing the agreement as the atmosphere grew brighter. Days later, the same rooftop remained silent beneath the footer. Time had passed with no trace of the girls. Reclining outside, with cats meowing around him, he chuckled softly, acknowledging that they never showed up. Holding a cat, sweating slightly, he wondered aloud whether he had done something to make them dislike him. A cat, impassive and patient, meowed for food, seemingly confirming that its utility mattered more than its feelings. Watching the cats fight over crumbs, he sighed, reflecting that even they faced hardships in this twisted world. Petting a feline's head, he mused that even notions of beauty had turned upside down around here. Then, quietly murmured, "Well, well," as a girl with fox ears appeared, jumping and pleading for affection. He nonchalantly agreed, still busy feeding the animals. Her ears twitched, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment as he ruffled her head, her body melting under his comforting well, that transformed her nervousness into shy happiness. When he casually asked if she wanted him to scratch her belly, the girl, overwhelmed with shame, gasped, her body betraying her enthusiasm as her arms waved excitedly. He continued to ask if she felt comfortable, unaware of how far things had gone or how tense everything was. Breathing heavily on the ground, steam rising from her, she looked at him with anger and bewilderment at how still she was experiencing pleasure. Startled, he backed off, raising his voice to clarify that she was not a cat and demanding to know who this strange girl was. Twisting and squealing beneath him, blushing tears streaming down her face, she introduced herself as Mina and stammered that the neighborhood cats praised him so highly that she had come on a request. He pointed to himself, incredulous that someone like her would seek him out specifically. As her clothes dried calmly on a line nearby, Inaf's voice awkwardly apologized for losing control earlier. With a subdued expression and her ears drooping, she insisted it was fine and admitted she simply wanted to experience the cat's joy firsthand. Standing in front of her chair, he hesitated before nodding cautiously and asked what her real reason for seeking him was. She responded sincerely, explaining that she wanted him to help one of her friends. Frowning thoughtfully with a hand on her chin, she knew her friend suffered terribly and asked quietly if Mina knew her symptoms. When hearing about a fever, seizures, and copious sweating, she begins to sweat and shudder, pondering in horror whether her mention of sweat truly refers to the bodily fluid. Clenching her fist, she cries out with determination, startling him with her resolute spirit. Raising his voice, he insists they cannot delay and urges immediate action. Her eyes sparkle, a blush creeping into her cheeks, as she asks if the situation is truly dire, only to be met with his unwavering confirmation. He explains with conviction that if their companion is suffering intensely, they must assist as swiftly as possible, drawing her admiration. Her lips tremble before curling into a gentle smile, and she whispers a heartfelt thank you, releasing her accumulated fear. Tears flow freely as she grins broadly, acknowledging that the cats had been right and calling him a truly kind person. Her tone tinged with emotion. A sense of pressure lingers in the air. Beyond the small clinic, a vast cityscape spreads under the sky, hinting at countless unseen dilemmas waiting beyond their immediate view. Before an imposing mansion's grand entrance, she murmurs that this place reveals the true magnitude of the impending crisis. His jaw drops as Mina proudly declares that the sprawling estate is her home. Walking purposefully down the quiet corridor of the mansion, her coat billowing behind her, the silence in the empty rooms heightens the tension. With a firm tone, she requests he lead her straight to the patient, and she responds with a curt affirmative. Her ears twitch slightly, sensing the weight of the moment as everything around them seems to hold its breath.